Hey, yo, what up? Welcome back. This is not a podcast. It's just my thoughts with Rob Markman. Shout out to everybody who likes, subscribe, watches, comments on the channel. Appreciate all of y'all who check it out. Gonna have a few things to talk about this weekend and over the course of the next couple of days. Very much into this new Ray Vaughn album. So I definitely want to talk about it. I just been listening to it a couple of times, man. I want to absorb it a little more, but I wanted to get into the new Ray Vaughn album, new TDE artist. I think that album is dope. Definitely want to talk about Dodie 6. There's been some updates there since my last video, so I want to make sure that I follow that storyline through, But today I want to talk about Young Thug. Young Thug is getting active, all right? He's been promoting his new album, UY Scuddy, which is the name of a star, and he's basically saying he sees himself as one of the biggest stars. So that's the story behind the album title. On Friday, he dropped a new song and a video for Money on Money, featuring Future, and he landed the cover of GQ, and that interview dropped, and the video version of that interview dropped too, where he's interviewed by journalist Zach Barron. It's kind of a little bit of a awkward interview for me, but whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But good information, man. It's good to see Thug talking and just getting into the mind of Thug. So when Thug was asked about Gunna, he completely dodged the question, which, the interview asked him what his relationship with Gunna is like. And, Thug basically was like, I know everybody is wondering. And then he kind of just laughed it off and changed the subject, which I expect. I don't know if I ever expected Thug to go in on how, he feels about Gunna. At least not yet. Maybe not with GQ. Maybe not ever. I just didn't expect that. So that was the answer that I was expecting. And the journalist did his job because he asked the question, but you can't force somebody to answer it. So, Doug just laughed it off, and I said, no, I know everybody's wondering. The interviewer also said that he heard Doug's album and described it as like personal, or said there were at least some real personal joints on there. Talked about some more of the emotional songs. He didn't get into too much detail, but in the back and forth exchange with him and Thug, you can tell that, it was more kind of inside baseball. Like, he was telling Thug, like, yo, I heard the album and these emotional things, and Thug talked about why he's okay with being emotional and stuff like that, or showing certain sides of him, but no real information for us. They were kind of having a conversation about music that they were both privy to, but the rest of us weren't. So we're gonna have to wait and see, right? Which that brings me to Money on Money, the new single. The song and the video are cool. The music video takes its cues from Jay-Z and Kanye West, Otis from Watch the Throne, of course. They chop the car up. They go for a joyride. There's some girls in the back. It's pretty spot on. It's just a clear homage. Like, there's no guesswork here. And it makes sense. I mean, Thug and Future coming together, two superpowers, creatively, two guys that have really, really influenced music and been some of the biggest rappers of the past 10 years come together. So I can see the comparison as why they compare themselves, or want to present as Hove and Ye did, so why they would want to compare to that. I get it. So it makes sense. Fun video. It's produced by Wheezy and Southside, 808 Mafia, a couple of other producers on there. So right off the bat, I love the D'Angelo vocal sample that the video starts with at the beginning. It's taken from Raphael Sadiq B here. It's not sample snitching. Like, it's pretty apparent. There's no real guesswork here, but Raphael Sadiq's be here. Such an amazing song, man. I love that record. D'Angelo was featured on it. So the sample is for the fade out of the song. And like I said, it's pretty obvious, but when D'Angelo is singing, said I really want you, babe. Said I really want you, babe. So it's just, sped up, looped up, and kind of leads us into the song. So right off the bat, when I heard the record, I'm like, oh, okay, like, just, I guess, the familiarity of it and me really loving that original song. It doesn't really, the sample in that way doesn't really drive this Money on Money beat, but coming into it, it was just something familiar that grabbed me right away. I said, okay, they got my attention. The song is cool, it works. But for me, I was expecting something more personal from Thug. I want to hear the stuff that the GQ reporter was talking about. You know what I mean? The truth is, Thug just went through some shit, man. the longest trial in Georgia history, I believe. Rico, and beat the Rico when everybody said that he couldn't, and that nobody could beat the Rico, and well, it didn't really. I guess there's a plea and he has his probation, but really avoided the worst of it, even though the probation is a lot, but really avoided what could have been like insane. So I'm thinking now, I'm choosing my words. I'm like, did he really beat it? I mean, but considering what he was facing, yes. You know what I'm saying? Considering what he was facing, he got out of there. I was expecting, though, the first song on this album, then also the trial, everything we see in the trial, the antics. I was just expecting the first song, or maybe not expecting, but I was hoping that the first song to set off this album really kind of set a tone into where he's at. I think he's in a unique position to tell a story that we really don't hear every day. Like you kind of hear it as rhetoric in rap a lot, but really hear it from somebody who freshly went through it. In a similar way to how T.I. Paper Trail. Like you kind of get these moments where it's like, yo, I want to hear it from you. I want to hear what you've been through. There's hints of it on Money on Money. It's not devoid of it. There's hints of it. On the hook, Thug says, I don't want you to go do nothing if I got to be the one to tell you to spend. These fuck telling for nothing, and I got to be the one calling them friend. Basically alluding to, hey, I'm not the boss. I don't want you to go do nothing. If I got to be the one to tell you to spend, I don't want you to go do nothing. Just him, hey, I'm not calling the shots, like was alleged in the Rico case against him, right? So being very clear there. And then the telling for nothing part could be about Gunna, probably about Gunna, but so ambiguous is that, again, it's like in that GQ interview, like he's not going to come out and say it, but, telling for nothing and I got to be the one calling him friend. Like, just loyalty and whatever. Could be directive towards Gunna, for sure, but we don't know for sure. He also starts with the verse, in his verse, he says, Mama, you a thot, I don't want shots. Brother, you a rat. Twin, you a pack. Running through sacks, Louis V slacks. It just kind of threw that in there. Brother, you a rat. Maybe about Gunna. Like, we don't know. It doesn't get deep, though, right? It just kind of scratches the surface, leaves enough, I think, for people for wonder. Future also has a line about a rat in his verse, so who knows? Of course, the backstory is this, right? Gunna is signed to Thug's YSL, though I guess there's been reports that they're maybe trying to unravel that deal and move him someplace else if that hasn't happened already, but just trying to figure that out. But, he was arrested and swept up in that Rico, as so many people who were close to Thug were. But Gunna pled guilty. He took an Alfred plea. And he acknowledged during a hearing that YSL is a music label and a gang. Though nothing that he testified, I think, legally could be used against Thug. Really, maybe a bit of gray area there. Definitely gray area there. Some people have called it snitching. Gunna's legal team insisted it's not. I don't know. I'm not here to debate that. But it just doesn't seem like things are good between Thug and Gunna, and never will be. I just don't see that there's no fixing this. So, there might be little allusions to this in the song, but nothing that really gets us into the mind of what Thug is thinking. Thug, also tweeted this and deleted it last year where he said, Gunna, stop acting like we friends on the internet. I don't know you, my guy. There's been all that back and forth, the voicemail supposedly to Dirk, the things between Lil Baby and Thug, just the conversations alluding to, kind of shitting on Gunna. Some of it subliminal, some of it kind of direct, but I'm glossing over that because it's a lot. You get the picture, right? Like, they're not fucking with each other. We haven't seen them with each other. It's been ambiguous. I do not expect to see them with each other. These lines in this song probably directed towards Gunna. But the fact is, despite all the accusations, right, Gunna has been successful musically. Hasn't really hurt him in terms of the fans and the listeners. The listeners don't seem to care. As far as Money on Money, yes, Thug alludes to his situation, his struggles with those lines. Other than that, it's pretty standard rap fare, right? It's pretty standard rap subjects. It's not that deep. But, you know, I really want to hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm waiting to hear that perspective. I'm waiting to hear that ordeal, that he's been through, that pain on the record. Also, it's worth noting, too, and that's just my expectation for the album. So I'll say this, like, Money on Money was cool to me. I think the record could work. I thought the video was really cool. But I'm waiting to hear that shit that's on the album. I'm waiting, like, I'm holding out for this album. And what kind of story are we going to get? What kind of emotion are we going to get? Also, just worth noting in the interview that Thug was asked about being name dropped by Kendrick on Not Like Us. You know, Thug made you feel like you were slime in your head, that whole third verse where Kendrick is talking about Drake running to Atlanta to get a check balance, to get his cred. You know, so they asked Thug about that. And Thug's quote was, I don't know what that was about. I'm a Drake fan. Which, again, didn't say much. But that's what I expect from Thug. Like, why would he? It's clear he's cool with Drake. You know, I don't know that he's not cool with Kendrick, or that he feels away. He said supportive things of Kendrick in the past. Like, I think it was when French Montana, when he was talking about the hits, and he was like, I said got more hits than Kendrick or something like that. Like, kind of clowning, but in defense of Kendrick. But regardless of all that, Thug is he's collaborated with Drake a bunch. It's clear that there's a bond there, so that's what I expect him to say. Like, why would he pick another side? Like, Drake is his guy. So he made it clear. I don't know what that was about. I'm a Drake fan, and didn't even really pick a side. He just kind of stepped out of it, which is the smart thing to do. You just came out of some real life problems. Why would you involve yourself in this? But obviously showing support for his guy. So, you know, I saw a lot of headlines about that, but, you know, that wasn't about nothing to me. You know, I kind of think things too when I interview folks too, and I ask certain questions. I'm like, well, what do I expect them to say? A lot of times, sometimes you don't know, but for a lot of questions, it's like you can kind of guess what an artist is going to say. I could have guessed that Thug was going to say something to that regard. But, you know, that's it, man. Getting back to the album, to the UI Scuddy, we're going to have to wait and see. I feel like it has potential to be one of the better hip-hop albums this year. It's definitely going to be all eyes on Thug when this drops. I think everybody is waiting to hear his perspective on where he's going with it. I mean, Thug naturally was already one of those artists that when he drops, that hip-hop fans is like, all right, I got to check in for this. And I think after everything he's been through, even more so. So I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting to hear more. Like I said, Money on Money was cool, but I want to hear that shit. But let me know what y'all think, man. Hit me in the comments, like, subscribe, do all that. Until the next time, peace.